Hi everyone, I'm Chris.
And I'm Corey. Join us on our foul-mouthed adventure through the 80s as we answer the questions you didn't know you had, point out the things you missed, and recap the behind-the-scenes stories that likely never happened.
You're listening to
That's Basically the 80s.
You got a light, buddy? Yeah, sure, kid. There you go. And your wallet.
Nick, give him your wallet.
What for?
He's got a knife.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to That's Basically the 80s.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here with my good friend Corey.
What's up?
We just are drinking some coffee and we're fucking gonna jam this out before I have to leave my dumb ass and go to work on graveyards, you know?
Yeah, it's that late afternoon coffee podcast.
That's right, and then I'm gonna battle the upcoming winter storm and try and drive to work while you're gonna sit at home and just think about me and just worry. Say, man, I hope you made it to work all right. I mean, I know he messaged me and said I'm all right.
Right. You'll probably make it there and get stuck, and then you'll have to work for 3 days because no one else, your relief won't be able to come help you out.
Right, and then we'll have to just like scrounge on. We'll be playing poker for ramen noodle packets and shit to see who gets to eat. And
that's cool.
So we are going to be talking about Crocodile Dundee today.
Yep, the best movie about crocodile hunters in the 80s.
It's true, and I don't know this. I don't know how we ended up doing this or if it was
Disney.
intentional, but we ended up doing two foreigners visiting New York in a row because we just did Coming to America, and then we went right into Crocodile Dundee, so they almost kind of worked together, you know?
That's what I thought, too. It was like the reverse Coming to America where the lady, what's her name in the movie?
His wife in real life
is Linda, but her name in the movie is whatever. But she's just like, you know what?
Her name is Sue.
She's like, you know what? All these New Yorkers ain't shit. I gotta go to the bush and figure out where the real one is. So then she spins a map, and then she's like, I'm going to go to fucking Australia. I heard a guy got his leg bit off down there.
That's right. And, I don't blame her. Sometimes when you just need to let loose and just change things up, you just go to the bush, you know what I'm saying?
Hell yeah. I always wish that I could be like a reporter in the 80s, because they, like now if you're a reporter, you can do a lot of reporting from home and you can interview people remotely, but back in the 80s you had to travel everywhere, so you get to go everywhere, you know?
Now you just get on Twitter and you're like, oh shit, that's news, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Or I saw this guy on this sitcom say this, that's probably news.
But you can just like stand at a green screen. I'm on the scene and they're like, are you sure though? And you're like, well, you'll never know the difference.
That's right. Hey, we're in New York. It reminds me of that.
Yeah.
Wayne's World.
Wayne's World, they were the first to do it.
But yeah, for sure, that would have been awesome. Just like if you're a good reporter and you can write well and or whatever, then the company just pays all of your travel expenses, and you're just like, fuck it, I think I need to go to London. There was a good story there. They're like, Corey, do you really have something that you need to report on?
I'd be like, yeah, I gotta. There's this woman named Roxanne that works in a red light district somewhere in London. I gotta go check that.
She's apparently a big deal.
Yeah,
so
I gotta go do an expose on her stat.
Anyways, what actually made you pick this movie?
I just really like it. When I was a kid, I just always used to watch it, and I really liked it. So.
Oh yeah, I watched the crap out of it. And which is funny because I've watched it a bunch, and I've watched Crocodile Dundee 2 a bunch. And then you're like, which one do you like more? And I'm like, shit, I don't even remember which one. And then we started talking about them. We just put both of them together into one movie. You're like, it's about drug dealers that are something, whatever.
Yep. And that was number 2, yeah. Yeah, because I do like Crocodile Dundee 2 more. I like this one a lot, but we have to watch the first one before we watch the second.
Right, we haven't done any sequels yet, have we? Maybe that'll be season 4. We'll just jump on them sequels or something.
We should do Ghostbusters 2.
When you're walking down the street again.
Yep, because that's like probably one of the best sequels ever.
And it got such horrible reviews. But every time, and I've never done it, speaking of Ghostbusters 2, when I have a friend that's having a baby, I've always wanted to get him a picture of that dude, the creepy dude from Ghostbusters 2 that wants to steal the baby. I always wanted to get him a big poster and hang it up in their baby room, Never done it, though. I just am full of talk. I'm all talking.
That's nice of you to not horrify your friends with a picture of a snatcher.
Hey, he was just trying to get back into the world, He just got shit on, He's a demon. He got sent away. He's like, man, I just want to party.
Right.
So it's not my fault that I have to have the blood of a baby to get out. I didn't make the rules. I'm not the bad guy.
Silly. All right, so yeah, the movie starts out, and Sue is going to go to Australia to go meet Crocodile Mic Dundee.
Right.
So apparently there's this guy that crawled 3 days in the outback bush of Australia after a crocodile bit his leg, and she's got to go like meet him and figure out like what's all about.
Right, because the story is he got his leg bit off, and
Yeah.
the crocodile was the size of a Sharknado, and you know. So one thing I wanted to point out, I wrote down in these badass notes of mine, was the opening scene was she was on the phone talking back to her boyfriend back home, right?
Right.
And it was total 80s thing for me. And I don't know if it's just me imagining this, but her just sitting there, and then she had all of her wet hair and everything. And there's two things that kind of stick out for me when it comes to like sexy 80s scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Is there, for some reason, there's either random wind blowing and their hair is all blowing and feathery, or it's really wet and just that wet look.
Oh, yeah.
But that's just something I was just noticing.
That is basically the 80s. Hey, marketing. So yeah, she's like, fuck yeah, let's fly out of here. And then she lands in Australia and then goes to meet the one guy.
Yeah, his partner.
Yeah, he's got like that Australian suit on.
Yep, his name is Walter.
Yeah, Walter. And I love those suits. It's like a functional romper.
Yeah, something like that, huh?
It's like a romper with like all sorts of like pockets for tactical gear and shit.
And then you could put like a sling on it with a leather sling where you could hook up you could put like a couple extra bullets in there. You could put a granola bar. You could put, that condom you might need out in the bush. But yeah, he was very, very well prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, shit, you're going to pay that $2,500, right?
Yeah, he keeps like asking her like, oh, you guys are going to pay this much. She's like, yes, we're going to pay that. And he's like, okay.
All right, well, let's go to the bar. Where is he at? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. He'll show up when he shows up. But it's kind of fun because like we'll talk about it a little more as the show goes on, but it's kind of like a grifting scheme a little bit because they keep like pretending like things are a lot like crazier than they are, you know?
Right, because he's telling the story again, and the bartender comes up and she's like, oh, that story gets better and better every time I hear it.
Right.
And then Sue's like,
what?
And Walter's
like, God damn you, bitch.
And
all of a sudden, like,
beer.
a big old knife comes flying in, clunk, and then a big old alligator or crocodile. I can never remember which.
Well, we'll just go with crocodile since it's Crocodile Dundee.
So then it goes flying in there, and then all of a sudden, this guy's like beating up this crocodile, and she's like, "Oh fuck! You flew all the way from New York to Australia to see a motherfucker that beats up crocodiles, and then the first thing you see is a motherfucker beating up crocodiles, and you're surprised and scared."
And you don't even get that camera. Like, she's on point the rest of the time with the camera.
Like, come on, this is exactly what you paid to see.
And then the hillbillies jump in, and they're all fighting him, too. And then he's like, oh, shit, no, this is just Willie, my stuffed crocodile, you know?
He walks up to the bar. He's like, let me get a drink for me and my friend. And he looks over. He's like, hold up. Is that a lady over there?
I better go ask her to dance.
That's probably a Sheila. They like to call them Sheilas. Yeah, and so he walks over. And he's like, how's it going, Mic Dundee? And then he's all like trying to be like a badass and suave with her and stuff and hit on her, you know, because that's what you do when you're out in the bush.
Right, and when you're Crocodile Mic Dundee.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, wait a minute, bitch. Aren't you supposed to be like a hop-along one-leg motherfucker? He's like, well, it didn't take my leg, but he did have some pretty gnarly scars on there, so he did get marred up at some point.
He did get bit pretty good. He's not totally full of shit.
Right.
But, yeah, I kind of like that bar scene a lot because there's like the drinking game that they're playing where he's trying to
he puts a drink on his head and then the guy punches him.
And he's gonna try to punch the guy, so he spills his drink and instead he kisses him on the cheek and then runs away. And that guy goes into a rage mode and tries to beat everyone up.
He does knock the drink over though.
He does, yeah.
Right. And
he got him with that kiss.
And then those other guys are sitting in the corner talking shit. He's like, oh, I hear you're a crocodile poacher and whatever. And he's just like, nope. And then just barely misses a beat while he's dancing, just goes in with that uppercut, freaking knocks the guy out, and then he's like, hey, let's just finish this dance out in the back of the El Camino, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. He is good at like one-punching people out.
Yeah.
He does it a couple times in the movie.
Yeah, he does at least 3 that I'm thinking of on top of my head, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
right here he does it, then he does it to the boyfriend, and then he does it to the pimp.
Yep.
So...
and he kind of like he beats the pimp up twice, but yeah. So then it like the night ends, right? And then they wake up the next morning and they're gonna go. So she's like, yeah, but I do want to go see where this whole thing happened. He's like, it's fine. Like, okay, I'll take you. And so then they wake up in the morning get in the safari vehicle, and then they're gonna drive over and then go to where
They drove over to the boat.
took the boat across, and then they went.
Oh, on the drive, that's when the big bull.
Yeah.
Is that what you're going with, or no?
Well, I was gonna say like he pulls up and there's that big bull, and he does his little like with his fingers and makes it go to sleep. And she's like, wow. But then they get on the boat, and then they go to where like out in the western region of Australia where he had to be,
Right.
where he was out by himself because her part of her reason coming there, Sue said she wants to pay all this money, but he's going to take her to where this all happened so she can see it and get pictures of it.
See it and write about it. And that's another thing. While they're on the boat, he's sitting there checking out her legs, right? Because she's sunbathing, looking good, whatever. And then he's like, "Oh, hey, lady, what up?" And then points to the edge of the water on the shore, and there's another crocodile. And then she jumps and scared again. It's like, shit.
Right.
You can't jump every time you come to see crocodiles when you're with the Crocodile Dundee about crocodile stories. You're going to have to get over that.
Right. This is how it is. But I love how they get to they land the boat, and then Walter's going to drop them off for their like 4-day adventure, whatever. And he grabs Walter's watch and looks at the time when Sue's not looking, and then he looks up at the sun. And he's like, "Oh, it's about 2:22 in the afternoon. We better get going." And she's like, "Oh my God, it's 2:22. How does he do that?" And Walter, he's like the
He's got to
the
make that money.
wingman.
Yeah,
he's like the wingman. He's like, that's how these motherfuckers do it out in the bush.
You know, the bush?
Yeah, they don't got time for
They don't got
watches.
time to deal with time.
Yeah. And he's like, "What day is today?" He's like, "It's Wednesday."
He's like, "We'll be back Wednesday." And he's like, "All right, well, what's today?"
Monday. Oh. He's like, "God, that guy don't even care what day it is. It must be nice, you know?"
Right, and then later, just to kind of stay on his whole gimmick thing, it shows a picture of him, or him shaving, right?
Uh-huh.
And he's got that safety razor and everything.
Yeah, he's using the safety razor, and then she comes up and he grabs this big old buck knife out and starts finishing it off.
And she's just like over there like,
the best
"Something
part is
about
the
that."
safety razor sit like in his belt. Like you
Right,
can see it right there.
completely visible.
It just is always like obviously he can survive out in the woods, but he doesn't do all that stuff.
And it's like, come on, Nick. There's two places she's looking. One at your shaving, and the other, you know, where you put
The
that
old
razor.
crocodile slayer.
Yeah.
And then even again later, they're like eating dinner, and he's like, "You ought to try some of these bugs. These things, you know, try one of this one, and everything." He's got this whole platter, and she's like, "Oh my God!"
And then these little fruit things and stuff.
And he's like, "Well, I mean, you can survive on these, but they taste like shit." He grabs out a thing of beans and starts like opening it.
Right, he's got the knife too, and you know that when she looks away, he's going to pull out his can opener.
Right.
You know, he's just...
Because it's impractical to cut open a thing like that. So I just love how he's always like grifting or like pretending like he's just doing like all this survival stuff, but really he's like, "Yeah, I got a fucking Keurig over here. I got a like a body pillow."
He's actually got a little cupboard in the tree that's refrigerated and everything. He just opens up and just has like bottles of beer and caviar and shit in there, you know.
So yeah, but they like walk for a while, and then they make camp that night, and he's sitting there telling her stories, and then all of a sudden a snake comes up behind her, and he grabs it, wrings its neck, and flops it out. She's like, "Oh my God, is that poisonous?" And he's like, "Oh fuck yeah, it is.
He'll kill you in 8 seconds.
What do you think I killed it? Jesus Christ."
That fucking bull riding 8-second son of a bitch won't even last that long.
But she's like, "Are there more out there?" I mean, what's he gonna be like? "Oh no, that's the only one, actually." Could you believe it?
I just killed the last one of this entire species
now. He's like, "No, there's a lot more, but you'll be all right. You snuggle up close to me."
Right? And then they lay down, and then it's all quiet, and then he gets up, he's like, "Oh shit, what's that?" And she's like freaking out again, right? And that's when his buddy comes in, right?
Yeah.
So he kind of he knows. That's another thing. Just keep keep going, keeping the gimmick up,
right? Because he's talking with his friend, Mick's friend, and he's like, "Oh, you got a lady out here, huh?" And he's like, "You know how it is." And he's
that was when he was checking her for first aid, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, so we haven't got to that part yet.
We
That's
kind of skipped all around.
Yeah. So, anyways, the first night happens, and then
that's what he did. I remember because he just jumps up and says, "You hear that?"
Mm-hmm.
And then just lays back down and goes back to sleep, if I remember right. I mean, we watched this movie, yesterday?
Yeah.
So
it was actually just last night.
Yeah, so there's a really good chance that I won't remember any of it because it's been almost 24 hours since we watched it.
I'm fairly certain maybe the first night is when the coyote poachers show up.
Oh, yeah.
And then
the kangaroo poachers.
Yeah, the kangaroo poachers, yep. And so she's like, hunt them. She's like, "Why are you just letting them kill all those innocent animals?" And he's like, "Well, I mean, they're not really hurting us, they're just doing their own thing.
Right. And apparently it's not against the law.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's like, it's not against the law. So, and then she's like, yeah, but they're all innocent and everything. And he kind of likes her and stuff. And he's trying to, he's trying to get out back himself.
Right.
So he's like, fine. So he's like, stay right here. And then he goes and like picks up a dead wallaby and like gives it a gun. Starts shooting him.
And which is kind of funny because it's the same drunk guys that were in the bar that he punched out, right? Mm-hmm. So I have two things on that real quick.
Okay.
They took that big long boat ride and everything to get out there. So I don't know if that was necessary, if it was just for her.
Right. I think it was for her because later Walter meets him
in the truck.
So I'm sure they could have drove there.
Yeah. So then the other guys just drove there. So it's probably just part of her adventure. But so then, this guy comes up and he's like, oh, I got to pee, And then he sees the one big wallaby, like you said.
Yeah, he's like, wait a second, shine the spotlight over there. And they've got a spotlight mounted to the truck, and instead they just get out this other unnecessary spotlight that's the same size and shine it on there.
I said the spotlight, not the magnifying glass, guys. Quit.
But then he starts shooting all the guys' windows out and everything, and they go cruising off. And she's like, man, this guy's something. And then they go to sleep. And then the next day they're walking through together. And he's talking about,
That's when he calls her a Sheila.
Yeah, he's like, well, I wouldn't expect a Sheila like you to be able to survive here in the woods or in the bush and everything. She's like, whatever, you just think that a woman can't survive and everything, then what if we're going over to there, then I'll meet you there in 4 hours. And then she just takes off.
Right, herself. And then he just follows her.
And then he starts following her.
Which is a good thing because
she would have died.
It was your favorite part of the movie and also probably the most terrifying part of the movie too, because it could have ended.
Oh yeah.
So
yep, if he wouldn't have been right there. But she's walking and she's like, well, the hot sun's beating down. It's time for me to take my pants off so I can show my ass.
Right. And how practical is this? She's out in the outback and she's got a skirt on and then obviously like a thong swimsuit on,
right?
Which, I mean, we weren't complaining, and neither was Mick because he bonked his head watching, but it just seemed a little bit unpractical.
Right. But yeah, because he's like following her the whole time. She doesn't know he's following because he's like up in the trees and stuff and just slinking around, being sneaky, hoping, like protecting her. And so she takes her clothes off. She's got that thong on, and there's a real nice booty shot. And she's like, let me get some water. So she grabs her cantina and she gets in the water to start filling it up. And then boom, Crocodile shows up and grabs her by the cantina.
She's like, that's my fucking cantina now.
And then he's like gonna pull her down under and drown her. And then but right before that, like Mick was over just right off to the side, and he was sitting in kind of like some trees and everything. And then he's like, hold up, this is what I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm finally getting to see some ass. And then like
he kind of half knocks himself out.
Yeah, he like stands up and bonks his head. Oh, I'm out. But if he would have hit his head harder, then like Walter would have showed up and been like see like her half-eaten body, and then Mick laying there with his dick out and just like a bump on his head, and he's like, what the fuck happened? It's been a day and a half.
He's like, that's a sweet ass, but where's the rest of her? Right? And Mick's still knocked out.
Yeah, and he's just got like just his zipper undone and everything. And he's like, God, my head hurts.
And then you see that alligator over there just all fat and happy. It's like, Jesus. And then Walter says, well, I guess we're just going to have to write this off.
Yeah.
We're not getting our money.
They're definitely not paying us for this one. But yeah, he bonks his head and he's like, fuck, I got to save her. And then he runs over with his knife and brains the crocodile.
He even gets a little twist
he gets
on
that
it.
Twist
he gets that
in
knife
there, yeah.
and a twist. And she's like, is he dead? And he's like,
fuck yeah, he is.
I mean, I hope so.
Stabbed him in his brain.
I put this whole thing right through his entire head.
Right. And she's like, oh my God, you saved my life. And he's like, yeah, I like told you that these fucking crocodiles eat people out here.
I showed you my leg scars.
Right. She's like, that thing was going to eat me right away. And he's like, nah, they weren't going to eat you right away. What they like to do is drown you, and then they'll just tenderize you a little bit and hide you for a couple
rot
months.
a little bit in
their
their little meat cupboard.
Yeah, it's messed up. But anyways, she's got like a little scar on her bum that night. And he's like, why don't you bend over? Let me check that scar out, make sure it's not getting all septic. He's like, you'll get septic out here in the bush in a couple days. So then she's bent over, and he's trying to get that all figured out.
He's like, I just need a little bit closer look. Don't move,
Right.
She's like, did you get it yet? And it's actually probably just a little scratch, but he's like working on it.
Like, I got to work on it for a little bit. But that's when his friend shows up, and she's like, oh my God. And then he's like, huh.
He's like, you got a lady over there? Yeah, well, I was applying first aid.
Right. He's like, I was going to sit in the bush and watch for a minute, but I didn't want to hit my head. But yeah, then his friend shows up, and I love how he's wearing like a Casio watch.
Right, and jeans and a big
everything,
old belt
jeans
buckle and
a belt
everything.
buckle. And then he's like, yeah, I'm heading over to the tribe. My dad's going to get pissed if I don't go over there. And Mick's like, yeah, he's a real city boy, but he gets all dressed. He's going to get dressed up and make that whole journey. And then he's like, anyways, I'm going to get going. I'll see you guys later. And he starts walking off. And then she's like, how does he know which way to go? And then Mick's fucking around again because like his watch probably says what direction he's heading. But he's like, some people say they just vision their way.
Just think their way.
Just think their way through the bush. And then he just like crack. He's like, fuck, I hate the bushes.
And the other part with his friend that I liked was when he showed up and she pulls out her camera and he's like, oh no, can't do that.
Right.
And she's like, oh yeah, it'll take your soul.
Oh, you believe it'll take your soul away? And he's like, no, because your camera lens is on.
Your lens cap's on, dummy.
Yeah. So funny.
So once we get back here, we'll jump into going to New York. How's that sound? Unless there's anything else you want to hit up on the Australia side before we...
Well, there's a couple of things that I still wanted to talk about, and then we could do the last half of them in New York.
Okay.
So, like, they go to sleep, and then she wakes up in the middle of the night, and he's gone.
Oh, yeah.
Crocodile Dundee's gone, and so she's like, oh. And so she, like, slinks around in the bushes and goes and finds them all doing the like, tribe dance thing, yeah, and everything, and she's trying to take pictures of them, and then she looks over, and Crocodile Dundee's just looking right at her, and she's like, oh my god. And then later, she's pretending to be asleep, and he's like, how did you know? And she's like, well, when you spend so much time out here, sometimes you can think and manifest. And he's like, no, just kidding, you're a inquisitive female out here doing a report. Of course you're going to come try to find me.
Yeah, tell you you're a reporter. You're out here.
So it's just so funny how back and forth between, like, old ancient side of everything, and then like him being like this badass that can survive out in the woods, but he's also like practical about it.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's just messing with her all the time. But then they meet up with Walter, and then she's like, why don't you come back to New York with me? And he's like, fuck it, I've never been there. Right. And so then he goes, and then Walter's like, well, I don't know if he wants to go. And she's like, we're going to pay a lot of money. And he's like, never mind, see you later, Crocodile Dundee.
He's going. I've already got his bag packed.
But I love how he gets on the airplane. They get on the airplane
yeah.
together, and he's scared as shit. Like, he'll kill a crocodile and they do everything. But, like, you get him on an airplane, he's just sitting there like, holy fuck. You know?
It reminded me of the one time where we were coming home from Vegas.
Uh-huh.
You remember that?
Maybe.
It was, I don't know, 7-8 years ago when we went down there, but it was the flight back, and then we hit some turbulence, and we were bouncing, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was a lady on there that started screaming.
Yep, I remember.
She's screaming. She's like, "Get me out of here!"
Yeah, I do.
It's
remember
like, where the fuck you gonna go? You go, there's one way out, and it's a straight down.
Right, you got some parachutes or something.
She screamed for like 10 minutes. It was funny.
I do remember her now. Yep. And that's only like an hour flight, but silly lady. We can take a commercial break and then talk about New York for the last half of the movie.
All right, here we go. A great word from our sponsors,
which is us. Dude, Chris,
what's up?
Do you know what I fucking miss?
What's up?
Gold doubloons. You know why?
Why?
Because I fucking love them. Dude, do you know my favorite thing about gold doubloons? Collecting them. Because do you know what that means? You're fucking rich. Do you know how to get rich?
How?
Well, you make podcasts.
Like us.
Right? Do you know how you get rich making podcasts?
You
fucking download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And do you know what you do after that? You get them fucking gold doubloons.
Gold doubloons.
Gold doubloons. You gather them all together, and you know what you do? You fucking try to spend them, and then they're like, we don't accept gold doubloons here. And you're like, well, fucking I'll go to some place that exchanges them, and then I'll get some cash.
And then you get like
some fucking cash.
$400 a piece.
Yeah.
Nice.
That'd be cool. Like, I would like to exchange 2 gold doubloons, and they're like, well, that's $800 cash. And you're like, all right. Give me them fucking Benjamins. How much is a Benjamin?
$100.
Yep. How much is a 50? Is that a Franklin?
That's a grant.
Oh, yeah. Put me on them grants, bitch.
Wait. Yeah.
Yeah. Who's Hamilton's a 20, right?
10.
Oh, fuck. Who's a 20?
Jackson.
I obviously don't know. You talk about a George Washington. I know that's a $1 bill.
Do you want to shoot this whole thing over?
No.
Okay.
Anchor.fm.
Alrighty, we are back. And real quick, I want to just thank all of you listeners again for hanging out with us, putting up with our bullshit, you know. And I want to thank all of our Patreons.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can just go to our website,
That's basically the80s.com, 80s.
And you can check out all of our episodes there. Corey puts those up there. Our Patreon is there. Some cool pictures.
Our award-winning Patreon.
Award-winning Patreon.
Yes.
Subscribe and share. That's the biggest help for us, is sharing our content with your friends and family and shit, maybe even your enemies. I don't know.
Yeah, liking, sharing, following, leaving 5-star reviews on Apple, all those things. We'll shout the 5-star reviews out as we get them.
Yeah, if you have an iPhone and you're listening, just go onto your little iTunes thing and just click on subscribe. Is that how that works?
Well, they're changing it. iTunes is changing it to follows now instead of subscribers, but you can follow the podcast now.
Same thing, different word.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, do all that shit. Go check out our website. It's really fun. Join our Patreon because that's really fun also.
Alrighty. Well, once we come back from our commercial break, for those of you that haven't listened and those of you that have been loyal listeners, I always throw a random movie at Corey that he doesn't know that I'm going to throw at him. And then he'll just talk. Sometimes he talks about the movie. Sometimes he doesn't even talk about the movie. So he just talks for a couple minutes. So he's going to throw some dirty details at us from the original X-Men movie. Introducing Hugh
the Wolverine
Jackman as the Wolverine.
Yeah.
And Halle Berry as Storm.
I don't even know if I remember that movie, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Like what the first one was about. Who did they fight? Magneto?
Magneto and his crew, yeah.
What happened in that movie?
Let's see. Rogue runs off because she almost kills her boyfriend.
Uh-huh.
Ends up like on the border of Canada or whatever and finds Wolverine. And then...
Oh, that's the first one?
Yeah.
Nice.
Then they show up and Sabretooth attacks them and he fights them off. And somehow they end up in the X-Men Academy.
Yep.
They're trying to figure out what's the deal with Logan because they're kind of looking at his brain a little bit. And then they're like, oh, well, you can come here, Rogue. You're a kid. And, they train the X-Men.
Nice.
And then it turns out that Magneto's trying to get Rogue so then that way he can give her powers and she can run some big magnetic force field that'll make all of the people in New York into mutants.
Into what?
Mutants? There's like some big international conference right there by...
Oh, yeah. Okay. I kind of vaguely remember that now.
Yeah, I was putting myself on the spot too because I haven't seen it for like 10 years.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I like some superhero movies definitely more than other superhero movies. I think that I like the remakes of the X-Men's more with the guy from Limitless and the new age X-Men's.
Yeah, like the James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like the Origins ones.
Yeah, I kind of really like those ones. But, I mean, Hugh Jackman's awesome. He's always going to be Wolverine as well.
Yeah, for sure. He killed it in that role.
What's that? Which one is the movie where he's like sitting at the bar watching them fight?
Oh, that's X-Men Origins. That's the one that you're talking about.
Origins. Yeah, and he's watching...
Because Professor X and Magneto are going around trying to recruit him, and then they come walking in, and they're like, hey, man, what's up?
And you're like, fuck you guys.
Yep, fuck off. And they're like, okay. And then they...
see you later. That part was pretty funny. Yeah, I like some X-Men more than others. Oh, I also really like in Origins is at the end of Origins when all of the actual X-Men are sitting in the room by themselves, like doing a meeting, the original X-Men, and they like walk by.
Could be.
It's like in the credits of the X-Men Origins movie.
I know there's one that they go back in time.
So all it is
Maybe
is like
they
just are like walking. They just like walk through, and then like in a conference room is like Beast and all of the original X-Men.
Right.
They're all together.
I can't remember which one it's in, but yeah, it's like an after credits one.
Yeah, that part was funny. But that's not anything about the movie. But I kind of like those a little bit. I never liked the X-Men that much, besides just like a couple people. The Deadpool guy in the X-Men were terrible.
Yeah.
I'm glad that Ryan Reynolds fixed that up.
All right, well, that's briefly the X-Men. You know what that is?
That is definitely the 90s.
Definitely the 2000s.
Can't believe it's a 2000s movie. It feels older than that.
Well, it came out in 2000. So it was
nice.
right on the edge.
On the edge of... I'm on the edge. No, I was thinking The Edge of 17 from Stevie Nicks.
Edge of Loving You. What's that one?
No idea. All right, and we're back to the movie.
We're going to jump back into Crocodile Dundee. We are in New York. We're landing the airplane, and she's meeting up with her boyfriend.
Right. And then he sees them kiss, and he's like, motherfucker. Then her boyfriend's like, where's this crazy wild bushman? And she's like, he got upset at customs when they tried to check his bags, and then he shows up and he's got to go down the escalator and he gets all scared of the escalator.
Right.
I like that. He's all hiding from, like, trying to, like, walk back up, and that lady's standing there with him. She's like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
It's like, look, man, just fucking jump, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You got them big boots on, you'll be fine.
But yeah, he gets off the escalator. They meet each other, get in the limo, and boom, who do we got driving that limo?
Motherfucking Carl Winslow.
Yes, love him.
And I was like, man, I thought he always played a cop. And then you hit me with that real shit.
Mm-hmm.
He was an undercover cop in this one.
Because he was really good at kicking those pimps' asses.
I think he might be Batman. I think he's the Silent Guardian. You know, he's not the hero that they want, but he's the hero they deserve.
Yeah,
for sure.
He's the terror that flaps in the night.
That's right. Sometimes he's the terror that claps in the night.
Yeah, I was going to say he's the terror that claps in the night for sure with that nice-ass suit he's wearing.
That freaking mustache.
But
irresistible.
Yeah. I love how Crocodile Dundee sits in the front seat and they're driving around and they stop it. And she, like, makes comments. She's like, "Welcome to New York, over
7 billion
people or whatever." And then they pull up to a stoplight and he looks out the window. He's like, "Howdy, mate. Mic Dundee from Australia." And he's like, this guy is all busy New York guy. And he's like, "Hi, how's it going?" Whatever. And he keeps talking again. He's like, "Yeah, I'm just in here in New York for a few days." He looks again and he's like, "Fuck, whatever. Back to business." And he's like, "All right, maybe I'll probably see you around here in a couple of days." Like, there's millions and billions of people.
1 in 7 million chance that you're going to see this guy again.
I think they should have, like, had him run into him again.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, like, something special.
Because he ran into the hooker a couple of times, you know?
That'd be fun. Yeah, just silliness. And then I think they go to the hotel from there, right?
Yeah, and then that's when he gets out and he's like, "Hey, Carl, what tribe are you from?"
He's like, "Tribe."
I'm like, "Tribe? What the fuck are you talking about?" And he's like, "Yeah, you're black, aren't you?" He's like, "Well, yeah, I am black."
Yeah, that's true.
That's kind of like that innocent backwoods, like from the bush. Like, you just say what it is and you just expect what you just expect, you know? And he's like, "Well, shit, man, I was in Harlem, you know?" And I love how Carl just was like cool as ice with it too, you know? He's like, "Yeah, this guy is awesome."
Yeah, he's like, this guy's a nice dude. He doesn't mean any harm anywhere. They go to the hotel and get all checked in and everything. And that, like, bag guy, like, holds out his hand for Crocodile Dundee to give him some money.
Right.
And then he's like, put her there. Mic Dundee from Australia, and shakes his hand. Like,
he's like, "Good day."
Yeah. It's kind of funny. And she's like, "Oh, here, I've got it," and gives him some money.
She's like, "You're in my territory now, man.
Yeah, you're in my jungle now." Like, I was trying to get in your jungle in fucking Australia.
You know, I am the man from the bush.
Yeah.
They call me the Bushmaster.
They do.
3000.
He goes in the bathroom. He's like, "Hey, this thing's got 2 urinals." And she's like, "Well, that one is for whatever. I'll just let you figure it out." And then she leaves. And then you, like, hear a whistle. You look way up into the hotel. And he's like, "Hey." She looks up and he's like, "That's for washing your backside, right?" She just starts laughing.
She just thumbs up
him. Carl Winslow looks up. He's like, "Crazy mother."
That Mic Dundee. He's such a hoot.
Such a hoot. What happens after that?
Then he goes on his little walk. Mm-hmm. And that's when he's just walking down the street. He's walking the opposite way of the crowd. He's like, good day, Mic Dundee. How's it going?
Yeah.
And then he kind of gets lost and then crawls up on the old signs on the light post, right? Mm-hmm. And then the Mountie cop comes up and he's like on his horse. And then becomes his friend.
Carries him back.
Right? He's like, "Fuck, you guys lost this."
Yep. Here's your guy. Yeah, it's kind of funny. He just is
just out exploring a little, you know?
And then just got lost and figured out the best way to get out was to crawl up above the crowd and get out of there, which is a foreshadow for how the movie ends here in a little while. But
right. And then we move on to the dinner, right?
Well, no, because he goes out drinking with, he goes out drinking by himself one night, not when he's depressed. He just goes out with, like, the cabbie and everything, and they are in the bar, and they are, like, hanging out and talking and everything.
Right, I couldn't remember if that was before or after they go to dinner, and he punches the boyfriend out.
Oh, yeah, I can't remember. Maybe it's after.
Because I thought he went out after that, because they go to the dinner, and the boyfriend's all dickhead, right? And then he kind of sucker punches him a little.
Yeah, so Sue asks him, "Hey, you should come to dinner with us." And he's like, "Well, you and your boyfriend have been away from each other for a while. Maybe you guys want to be together." And she's like, "No, I want you to be there." And then the boyfriend's mad because he wants to just have a dinner with her alone. Mm-hmm. And so then they go to the dinner, and he's being a piece of shit. He's like, "Oh, what are you doing out in the outback? Just putting a couple shrimps on the Barbie.
Right? And he's
And
like,
all
oh, why don't
laughing
you
and
order
stuff.
for us?
Yeah. And so Mick hits him with that fucking punch, knocks him right out.
It was quick, too.
Yeah, he was quick, and he's like, this guy probably had too much to drink, and he's all like laid out.
Right, and then she chews him out. Oh, you punched him. Well, he was being an asshole, you know?
Mhm.
Then she drops him off, and then he gets back in the cab. He's like, hey,
Yeah, that's
you
how
got a
it was.
boozer?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know what that is, but...
Yeah, he's like, take me to Boozer. And he's like, what the fuck is that? He's like, it's a place where you can get
a drink?
a drink or whatever. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, I know some good places.
Shit, I'm off duty.
Right? So they hop in the cab, drive to this badass bar, and walk in. And then it kind of looks like things might get dicey, you know, like record kind of skips and stuff. And he walks in, he's like, how's it going? And then just like immediately makes friends with everybody in there.
Right, and then the one guy comes up. What's happening? He's like, what's happening where?
Yeah. He's like, I mean, what's going down? And
Well, his beers are going
yeah,
down.
these beers are going down, I'll tell you that. And he's like, oh, man, you're cool
And
as
he
hell.
teaches him the little handshake
Yeah.
and everything.
And then he uses that handshake later with someone else, I think.
Yeah, with one of the rich white dudes at the
Yeah.
freaking
At
party
the-
she takes
the
him to.
big party, yeah. But then they get all drunk and stuff, and
Then he's getting hit on.
yeah, he's getting hit on, and then the one cabbie's like, dude, that's a, you know, that's not a lady or whatever. And he's like, what? And then he goes and like grabs her or whatever, and then she's like, oh my god, and runs off, and he's like, what the heck? And they're all laughing at him.
Right, because that's all new to him.
Because he doesn't know.
He doesn't know the city life.
No, it doesn't know city life at all or anything, you know. And so they just like all have fun and everything. And then Mick goes out. They go out of the bar, right? And then the cab guy's like, where the fuck did I leave my cab? And he's like, I'm gonna go find it. Just give me a few minutes. And that's when he meets the two prostitutes.
Right. Or how many times have we had this debate? Ladies of the night.
Right.
I called them hookers earlier.
Right. But they're talking to him and they're like, hey, you want to have a wild night and everything? And he just thinks they're two ladies hanging out. And
Right.
And then the pimp comes up and he's like, hey, man, I'm kind of chatting these ladies up. I'm kind of getting somewhere with it. Can you buzz off? And
You're like, you either buy that snatch or get the fuck
Yeah.
out of here.
And so he's like, ladies don't want to hear this nonsense. He fucking hits him with the punch too and lays him out.
Right, and then he does tell ladies, well, if you're going to hang out in a neighborhood like this, you're going to hear that language. I'm sorry.
Right.
You
They're
know?
like,
Huh.
It's true, I guess. But, you know, at the same time, they're like, hell yeah. Fucking Mick just punched out whatever.
Fucking Steven.
Yeah, Steve the pimp. And then the cab shows up, but he's drunk. So Mick's like, fuck you, I'm going to drive us home because I'm not drunk. And then he's driving. He's like, that's why you guys get in all these car accidents. The steering wheel's on the wrong side of the road.
Right?
So he drives him back home. And then that's the end of that wild night.
Yeah, then they move on to the next day, and I think they go out and do a little bit of sightseeing or whatever, and then she takes him to the party after that, right?
Yeah, that's when they almost kiss.
They do kiss.
Or they do
They
kiss.
kissed in freaking Crocodile Dundee land, Australia, and then they did kiss again in New York before the party, and then they go to the party.
Yeah, because they go do the sightseeing and everything, and she's taking pictures of him, like, pointing at stuff on top of the Empire State Building.
Right.
And all that.
And they have a moment, and they do kiss.
Yeah, they kiss again. And then he's like, hell yeah. You know, I think she likes me. But then they go to the dinner at her father's house, because her father is obviously the head of the newspaper, so they're, like, billionaires.
Right, and he's like, I gotta meet this Crocodile Dundee guy.
Mm-hmm. So, I guess in between that, Sue and her boyfriend are at the newspaper place, and he's about to ask her to marry her there, but then the dad comes in and interrupts and everything. He's like, you guys come to dinner, bring Crocodile Man. And then the boyfriend proposes there, sort of. He just says, I'm going to marry her, and then just puts a ring on her finger.
Right, there's two important things that happen at this dinner. One, you get introduced to the other old lady, the older lady that has like the deeper voice, and then Mic Dundee just walks up and grabs her right on the
right,
and then she's like, "Oh shit!" And
she's
then
like, "God damn, I'm gonna go to Australia."
She's like, oh, "He's Australian. I better go."
Right,
Which I
did
thought
like
was pretty cool.
Yeah, just walks up and grabs. Whoa.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna go to the airport. We'll be there in about 20 minutes.
I need to book a flight with Walter.
But then, then he hits the bomb at the actual dinner. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna marry me," and she doesn't really say yes, but she does let him put the ring on, and they kind of kiss him, whatever, too. You know,
it's kind of like a weird spot where everybody's watching, and she's probably like in shock about like, wait a second, you didn't ask me,
right? And then Mick's like, "Oh shit, well, I mean, I really liked her, and we kissed, and." You know, I bandaged up that booty and stuff.
Right.
I don't do that just for anybody.
Yeah.
But whatever, this is New York, I guess. And then he checks out of his hotel and he's like, oh, fucking get out of here, you know?
Well, no, not yet. He goes, he leaves the function and he goes to Carl Winslow and he's like, hey, you take me home. I'm going to sit in the back seat though. And he's like, you take me home on the way past a liquor store.
Right.
And he's like, I got you. And he hands him a bottle. And he's like, this will help you out. So he drinks that bottle down. And then he walks down the road and he's going to go find another bar to go drown his sorrows in. And then he turns a corner and he's like, oh, damn, there's those one girls I was chatting up there. You know, and he runs over and talks to him, but it's two different girls. And he's like, wait a second. Oh, I thought you were just a lady I knew. And they're like, shit, I'll be a lady, you know. You got $20.
Call me whatever you want.
But then the pimp shows up and he's like, there you are, motherfucker. And,
right, and then Dundee punches him out again. But
Dundee's
a little tuned up this time, so he's a little slower.
Yeah, he's not as quick. But then two other guys that were straight out of the 1950s were also waiting. Yeah. Those guys were completely 30 years behind and dressed like they looked like fucking mobsters.
Yeah, they looked like the freaking mice or the weasels from
Yeah,
Roger.
exactly. It's exactly what I thought they looked like. But they start beating the shit out of Dundee, and that's when undercover Carl Winslow shows up with that limo. He's like, you know, and he beats a couple of them up, and then the one guy goes off running, and then he just grabs the thing on the back, like the hood ornament, the trunk ornament, right, and just swings it like a boomerang all the way out, and it hits the guy in the back of the head and knocks him out. And then Dundee's like, see, I knew that you were.
I knew you were part of a tribe.
You were part of a tribe. He should have been like, yeah, man, I'm from the fuck around and find out region, like the Walkabout Creek. But he's like, yeah, I'm from the fuck around and find out region of.
That's right.
But that part was so cool because it was completely unnecessary.
Oh, yeah.
I could just imagine, the director's like, we need something, and then some guy calls up and he's just like, I got it. If I could take this thing, it looks like a boomerang. This guy's from Australia, and then Carl Winslow just throws that shit for no reason. Like, if it were me, I would have threw it. It would have just hit the wall.
You'd have cut your hand trying to pull it off or something. Or you just sitting there trying to rip it off. Be like, nope,
guy ran away.
I was just checking the integrity. We did have a collision.
Right? And your boss at the cab company's like, now, why did you rip off the trunk ornament? I'm trying to get. And he's like, no, I threw it like a boomerang.
I took this guy out.
He's like, right, but the guy was running away, right? There was no more threat.
He was no longer a threat. He was scared because you guys tuned up the rest of him, right?
He's like, look, they don't call me he who claps in the night because I don't throw that shit.
Yeah.
I throw the boomerang, and then the ladies throw that ass for me after.
It's just
that's how it works.
It's the way it is,
Then Mick's like, well, fucking thanks for saving my life. And then he goes back to the hotel and he packs all his shit.
Right, and that's when he checks out.
Go home.
Mm-hmm. And then he decides to go on a walkabout again.
Oh, yeah.
Because earlier...
He's not going to go home. Yeah, he decides to go on a walkabout.
Because we didn't even talk about this because it wasn't that important. But earlier she was just chatting about, are you married? Well, I was, but then I went on a walkabout for a couple of years and I don't know what happened to her, right?
Right.
And so she knows what a walkabout is. And then she's like, shit, where'd he go? And so she has to try and run down the street. She's throwing her heels off and,
Well, so, yeah, he does decide to go on a walkabout, but he goes and talks to the bellboy at the hotel. Mm-hmm. And he's like, the guy's like, you checking out, Mr. Dundee? And he's like, yeah, I think I'm going to go on a walkabout, though. He's like, where to? He's like, well, what's the quickest way to get out of New York? I think I'm just going to walk around the whole country. He's like, well, there's a fucking subway over here, I guess. He's like, thanks, man. And he walks off, and then she shows up to go find him. And he's like, oh, you're looking for Mick? He just left. He's going to the subway. And then that's when she's like, yeah, that's when she's like, fuck, I got to run. And then she's like, fuck these hills. She takes him off and goes running. She gets to the subway, and it's packed, right?
Right. Of course. So, they're packed in there like sardines.
Mm-hmm. But she's kind of she's timid and everything and scared of stuff the whole time throughout the whole movie. But then she runs down into the subway and this guy's like, where are you running, baby? Why don't you spend some quality time with me? And she just hits him with that knee into the nuts.
She brained him in the small brain.
Right. So she's like, Mick's teaching me to take care of myself. You know? So that was kind of cool. But then she runs down and then he's way the fuck down there. There's no way that she's going to hear him. And then we get to that most iconic scene probably from the whole thing where she's yelling to a guy and he's like, what? And she's like, I need to talk to him. And he yells down to someone else and he's like, this lady needs to talk to him. And they do this whole conversation back
which
and
is
forth.
Really cool.
Yeah. I always love that part at the end of the movie because I don't know, I think that it was just pretty well thought out the way that they decided to film that and everything, you know, just like all these like New Yorkers like working together and everything. And then like he's just like, I'm not going to marry Richard. Hey, that's his name, Richard.
He's a dick.
Right. And he's like, why not? And he's like, because he can't suck alligator venom out of my ass like you. And then he's like, that'd be cool if the guys are like, the construction guy's like, did I hear that right? She's like, you're fucking damn right you did.
And he's like, wait a minute. You know that alligators aren't venomous, right?
She's like, wait a second. But
Nick's like, shut up.
God damn you. That's funny. But then, like, if it were me, because I'm not a badass from Fuck Around and Find Out Creek, but I would have been like, let me just wait for all of the people to get in the subway, and then I'll just walk.
Instead, he's like, no,
I'm going to get my cowboy boots all over on all your faces and just walk across all of you.
Right?
And then walks across, and it's all like triumphant music, and then they kiss.
Da-na-na.
And that's the end of the movie. But a really great movie.
Oh, yeah. You definitely should watch Crocodile Dundee. It was the first time Carrie watched it.
Sort of.
Yeah, she kind of watched it. She was working on her phone while she was watching it. So I think she missed the sweet ass. But, you know, whatever, that's on her.
Yep.
So thanks for tuning in, guys. And, Corey, I've got a sweet suggestion for next time.
What do you got?
Unless you got something.
I don't got anything.
I kind of want to do something we haven't done before. I want to do a murder mystery.
Ooh.
And this one is also based off of a badass board game and stars Tim Curry. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Monopoly.
Close. I'm talking about Clue.
I've never seen the movie, so I guess it will be... Wait, did you say Tim Curry, that smiley motherfucker?
Yep.
Oh, goddamn.
Yep.
It's just him walking around smiling.
Everybody's like, he did it. Look at that smile.
Yeah, look at that goddamn smile.
So you know what that is?
That's basically the 80s.